All right, so today we're talking about this debate that's been going on online. Should men always pay on a date? That is. So there's a lot of these little clips that we can see on like Instagram or whatever. So for example, like this one, just to get us started, we'll play this.
First date, who should pay? I'm not paying. If they ask to split the check, I would split it and probably not see them again.
I'm almost certainly going to pay for it myself. Several days down the line, if the girl wants to pay for it, that's fine. But I think initially, the guy should pay for it.
I think the boy should be on the first date. If they ask to split the check, would you be down or not? I would do it if they ask me, but I don't know if I would go out with them again.
They were agreeing. Everybody was in agreement. Did you guys notice that? For the most part, I think there was like one person that wasn't in agreement.
There were two that said if they were asked to split, they would, but they would not likely have a second date.
Yeah, yeah. So it seems like people are overwhelmingly in favor of men paying for the first date. But before we begin into the details of it, like, why do we even have this debate? What's going on culturally or socially that makes people so divided about who should pay? And people are divided. Well, I'll get into some stats later.
Well, you kind of hit the nail on the head of like it is a social slash cultural expectation, but I also think it comes down to like who the people are. And I know in that video it suggested like the first date, and I've had this conversation with clients before, like there are still a lot of women out there that are like, I make my own money, I can absolutely pay for my own dinner. And it's like no harm, no foul. Like we're both investing the same amount of time into a first date. Why can't we both invest the same amount of money into a first date and kind of see how it goes from there? But that's lady perspective. So Nate, you might have a male perspective on this.
My perspective, honestly, is that it takes the transactional nature of a first date and removes that transaction piece. It's no longer I am paying for you to do this, which then can put a pressure on the other person in the date to reciprocate in some way, shape, or form. Obviously, the date is over. Now, what are you going to do? You have some sort of expectation back. Many times, guys feel that way, and they don't get the kiss goodbye. Perhaps you're not getting a second date.
And I think.
Sorry, go ahead, Liz.
Okay, I was gonna say I think many women like. Most of my clients are women, so I'll say many women because that is most of my clientele. But a lot of women will feel too like, okay, if he does pay, do I owe him something now? Like, do I have to give him the kiss on the first date? Do I have to go home with him? Do I have to let him drive me home because, like, he did this very nice thing? But then I think, too, future conversation, it comes down to, like, again, who are those people? Like, does the man seem like the controlling type? Does he just seem like a chivalrous type? Does he seem like the traditional type? Like, what are his intentions along with paying for the first date?
Why does it always come down to his intentions, though? Why does it always have to be his intentions? Isn't it allowed, shouldn't it be, especially in this modern day, that women are the ones to approach and seek and therefore have the first date? Just realized it now, my first date with my current wife was paid for by her. The whole
that's a
thing
game changer, isn't it?
I was going to ask you about that.
By her. Yep. Planned by her, paid for by her, set up from beginning to end, all by her. And it was a thing she didn't even like.
That's a game changer. Now, from a guy's perspective, if the woman pays, it's from my perspective, it's a shocker. It's a pleasant shocker, especially if there's no like hesitation. It's just kind of like she goes, no problem, I got this.
Yeah, and it wasn't even that. It's, hey, why don't we get together on this date and do this thing? So it was fully planned ahead of time. She put all the effort in. It was not that we didn't, see each other and do things before that. It was mostly just, hi over the internet and whatnot because we met long distance. But the first time we actually met in real person, yeah, she planned the whole date. I loved it. I loved it. It was because I've had many years of being the other side of that relationship. I was the guy who always was expected to pay. Never concerned me, never bothered me. I am a relatively traditional person. I do enjoy the chivalrous side of things. I get the door, car door, building door, whatever. I did used to enjoy planning the dates, but My wife, she likes it. She gets more out of the planning than she does the doing. So we have a nice balance.
So there's two things that came to my mind in terms of why some people have an issue with this men always paying. One had to do with income. Like we're not in 1950s anymore, right? Most
Mm-hmm.
people have more or less equal income. But the other thing is I've been hearing about men feeling like they're being used for free dinner. I'm curious if if that's ever happened to you, Nathaniel, or Lizzie, B, if maybe some of your female clients have ever admitted to doing that.
All the time. All the
Are you
time.
serious? That
Yes.
came out way too. That rolled off your tongue way too easily. Seriously.
Because sometimes we go through the conversation of like, okay, no expectations. Like, what is your expectation? What are we going to get out of this? Whatever, whatever. And a lot of times it's like, okay, well, worst case scenario is I get a free dinner and we don't vibe, which is therapeutically kind of good because, okay, like we're still seeing the positive. We're not looking at this as like a huge loss if we don't continue to date this guy. So I think a lot of the time it's like, okay, what is the positive? And it's like, okay, well, at least I can get dinner.
I will, again, being the other half of this potential relationship here, I would be definitely offended if I was just expected to be a meal.
Mm-hmm.
And yet have discussed with a client who decided that she wanted to go out with somebody just to get a meal because she had recently been dumped and was very open with the person that she was just doing this for a meal, would be willing to split, but was hoping to go on a date. Honestly, in that situation, she's open. I'm cool with it. If I want to do
Yeah.
it, I'll do it.
Mhm.
That's my call. And in that case, things are going actually a heck of a lot better than anyone could have imagined, because the client is starting to recognize that they have, value.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let me hit you guys with the next question. Several surveys, men are more likely than women to insist that men should pay. For example, in one of the surveys, it was something like 40% of men versus 29% of women saying that men should pay. What might explain that gender difference in adherence to this norm?
I think through history, like, I mean, in terms of the social cultural thing, like through history, I mean, women were kind of like the second place. Like, women stayed home, we took care of the kids, we cooked, we cleaned, all that stuff. And it was like men were the breadwinners. So, if anything needed to be paid for, it was by the men. And that's why I say now I think there are a lot of women, because there are a lot of working women now, that would be willing to split the check. Like, I'm one of those women, like, I am the one to like go for the check first. I don't care if I'm with my friends, my partner, like whoever it is, like I'm grabbing the check. And I have, some of my best friends are like that too, where they just like go for the check. It's like whatever. It I think just through time, like I think it's that tradition that like men are the ones that bring the money in.
Let me follow this up with the second question because it's kind of related, and maybe Nathaniel, this will uh, spark something for you. Definitely will spark something for me. Even if most women, because based on these studies, most women say they don't expect men, and we can imply that women don't expect men to always pay, right? So even if most women say they don't expect men to always pay, do we really believe her impression of him won't shift if she ends up paying?
Well, look at that video you showed. I mean, the two women who said yes, they'd split, both said, but they probably wouldn't have a second date. To me, that's your answer right there.
Yep, and that's tying it back into. I'm losing my train of thought. What was the
I
previous question?
personally wouldn't do that. Like I personally would not feel any type of way if I paid.
Before marriage and serious like engagement and all of that stuff with my current wife, for us it was, I'll get it this time, you get it next time. Oh, you forgot next time, that's cool, I'll get it this time, you get it the next couple times. It was never you pay your. The problem was we got so tired of splitting checks. This was when I was younger in college and just hanging out with friends. Nobody wanted to lay like, well, this one's mine, and oh, 27 cents here, and the tax is going to. So people just started
No.
saying either you throw a chunk of money in the middle, which you can afford, or one person pays, and everybody eventually gets it back. And
Yeah.
always worked.
So check this out. I just remembered what I was going to say. So this question ties it back into the previous question. So the previous question was, what explains the disparity So more men are saying that the men should pay than women, right? I suspect this might be a case of privilege blindness. So, what do I mean by that? So, in the dating market, the dating dynamics, women hold more power than men, right? So, you guys heard about the privilege studies? How people who have privilege tend to be blind to it, or they tend to be blind to certain behaviors?
To an
Yeah.
extent, yeah.
Right. So, for example, there's some studies on recognizing nonverbals or like tone changes. So, if you got money, rich people tend to be worse at it than poor people. Why? Because poor people have to be a lot more aware of their own tone and what the tone of the person who is hiring them is, or they could lose their job. Whereas rich people don't really, doesn't matter, right? So, they don't really have to pick up that skill. Why do more men believe firmly that men should pay? Because to them this is a lot more consequential. They have learned through trial and error that, hey, when I don't pay, yeah, she might seem cool, but then I don't get a second date. Whereas to women, they can be more free. It's less consequential.
Yes. If they like me and I don't pay, they likely will not want to see me again anyway.
I think this also goes back to like when I first started talking like through history, you know, men were the money bearers and women, for lack of better words, like women were the sex. Like women's bodies are always used to advertise colognes, perfumes, like back in the mid 1900s, like cigarette packs, magazine covers. I
Cars.
mean, Marilyn Monroe is like a modern day icon, and she was one of the most well known Playboy people, like Playboy girls. So I think with the idea of privilege, it's like, are some people still under the impression that like men are the money and women are the sex? Which then goes into like, do women feel like they owe these men something?
Which is why, as a man who is not my personal belief, but as a man who's paying for the date, I do believe I should get something back. And in this case, like you said, as a transaction, shouldn't that be sex? At the very least, a kiss goodnight. Some sort of physical intimacy of something. There's got to be a transaction, or else I was just used for a meal.
Yeah, it can easily slip into that thinking, right?
Correct.
For a guy,
Correct.
for myself, for I imagine
Mhm.
most men,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you got a string of them back to back, you're like,
Dating is
I'm starting to
hard.
think they're using me for a free meal.
But
Yep.
the privilege idea, right? Like that comes down to like equality. It's like, okay, if he has something on me, then what do I need to give him that we're even, that we're equal?
Here's the other question. I literally was just sitting here because a client of mine. First date, fine, everybody was happy. Second date, fine, she slept with him. Third date, didn't happen. He got what he wanted. So he
Mm.
spent however much money he needed to get what he wanted, and he's moved on.
Mm-hmm.
There's this
So,
tension that exists between both sides investing,
right.
and
And
if
what's
one
the investment
gives too
actually?
much.
Right, right.
And
Most
Right.
get given what
99%
they
of the
want.
time, from what I've seen, it comes down to sex and money.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right, next question. Wait, did we cover this one? Street interviews almost always show everyone saying yes, men should pay, while survey data tells us a different story, a very different story, right? We were looking at 40%, 29%, whereas every single interviewer was in agreement pretty much. What's the disconnect? Why is it that online we're seeing everybody say, yeah, men should pay?
Same as anywhere. You only show what you want to show.
Or you
You,
only say what you want people to hear.
yeah, you make things.
Impression management. I was wondering if
Yeah,
it's maybe impression management.
yeah. Get them feisty, get them fired up, get them listening, get them talking.
Uh,
Because people are going to react more to something that they think is funny or that they disagree with. Like, they're not going to react to, like, what's A plus B? Oh, it equals C. But they'll react to A plus B equals ZYX. And it's like, oh no, that's wrong. Like, that made a reaction
mm-hmm.
type of thing. So, I mean, it's what's going to make the audience react too.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, it could be like a survival type of bias, where these are the only clips that make it through the algorithm.
That's
Mhm.
yeah, very true.
Yeah. Final question: does generosity have to be gendered, or is the real question about how people show care, effort, and investment in each other, regardless of who picks up the bill?
I think money is a resource. I think money should not be considered part of transactional relationship issues or situations. I think money should just be that resource that helps you do the things that bring you closer together.
Hmm.
If that be a meal, great. If it be the meal coming from me, fine. Again, if you're going into something like this with true intentions of being a healthy person, money is just the thing that helps the two of you have a good time together and grow closer.
Mm-hmm.
Personal opinion, money comes and goes. It's always going to come, it's always going to go. But also, I wouldn't want to be brought on a date that, like, if you pick up the check, you're going to be set back for the week. Like, if that's the case, I am totally cool with doing something that doesn't cost anything. Like, let's go for a walk in the park. Let's go to the bookstore. Let's go grab a cup of coffee because that's a lot cheaper than dinner. Totally cool with me. So, in terms of like who is supposed to pay, I guess my idea is like income shouldn't be gendered, but it also like neither should being set back. Like we all struggle. It's 2025. We know what the economy is like. Nobody should struggle just because they want to spend time with somebody.
Mm-hmm. You know, my reaction was like when I read this question, does generosity have to be gendered? It felt so loaded. I realized that that's a loaded question. Because and I say it's loaded because when I look back on all of my relationships, none of my exes were ever not generous. Maybe in different ways, but I can't recall. Arguably, maybe one. But for the most part, it just maybe is expressed in a different way, right? So there's some level of complementarity to relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to what are we being generous with? Like, I mean, we can go back to the sex and money conversation. We can go back to like, I'm being generous by
Care.
just giving you my time,
That's
care,
right.
love
Care. Yep.
languages, anything.
Time is honestly, what else is a relationship but time together?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Stepping in when you need the help, supportiveness.
Hmm.
There's a lot of
I
different
think
ways to be
it's,
generous.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I think generosity too. I think of like, I mean, at what ages we all are, and most people is like we're in relationships or we're starting a family, we're getting married, like whatever we're doing. And it's like, okay, like maybe I want to get to know my husband's friends, or maybe he wants to get to know my friends type of thing. And like generosity, they're going to invite me over for dinner. I'm going to bring a bottle of wine, or I'm going to bring flowers for the table, like something. But a lot of time, even these days, like that gets misconstrued of like, oh my God, are you trying to be with my friends? Or why are you being so nice to them? And it's like, does generosity also make a first impression? I don't know.
Yeah. So we'll close it out on that question. I had a blast. That was pretty fun.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll be doing it again soon.